Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The problem of evil and the existence of God, or the sort of God that the theists subscribe to. Now, as with all discussions, we need to clarify the terms that we are using and the terms that are shaping our discussion. With the clarification of terms, we might find clarity in our thinking, and it allows us to come to conclusions that are far more acceptable, less ambiguous, and can add to our own understanding in a meaningful way. The problem was initially posed by Epicurus in the following way. This is how he formulated it. Either God wants to abolish evil and cannot, or he can but does not want to. If he wants to but cannot, he is impotent. If he can but does not want to, is he wicked? Hume again reiterates the same thing. Much later, of course, many centuries afterwards. Is he willing to prevent evil but not able? Then is he impotent? Is he able but not willing? Then is he malevolent? Is he able and willing? If so, whence then is evil? Now, in the first formulation, there is God, but it's questioning the nature of God. In the second one, it is questioning both the nature and the existence of God altogether. Now, we are operating in the terms of God, good, and evil. We need to explain these things. Before we can go into the problem at a logical and evidential or inductive level, we need to clarify what we understand by God. Here, we will be defining a theist God, a God that is promoted and asserted by the Abrahamic faiths at large, in particular, and other faiths also do the same. We will look at another definition of God in which God does not fit in to the definition of a theistic God, and we will see how that does not pose a problem. We're not talking about a deity, for that belief may not encounter this problem. The problem is encountered by a theistic God. So what is a theistic God? When we say theistic, we mean orthodox theism. He is one God, perfectly good God, as Anselm says, that beyond which nothing more complete can be imagined. And if we were to list his attributes, then we have a set of 8 attributes. That he is omnipotent. And the meaning of omnipotent and omnipotence is that he can do anything which is logically possible. Although we might even, as philosophers, create a problem with logically possible, the term. But for now, we'll accept omnipotence. That's one of his attributes. Omniscience, or he is omniscient. He knows everything that can possibly be known. Perfect goodness. He is the source of moral norms, basically. For he is self-existent. He does not depend others for his existence or subsistence. He is incorporeal. In other words, he is not material. So he is not subject to growth or changes. He is eternal. Either eternal in the sense of being outside the ambit of time, or he is ever living in the sense of he lives through time and never ends. He is omnipresent. He is with every time and every place. Number 8, he is perfectly free. Nothing either restrains him or becomes an impediment in his act. Now, if you find a God with these attributes, then you can see that there might be a problem. However, at the negation of any one of these attributes, God can be absolved. Let us say he is not omniscient. He does not know of certain events. Then in that case, we can have the existence of evil. Or he is not all capable, in which case he cannot remove evil, hence again there is no problem. Then there are what we call the contingent attributes of God, and one of the main one is that he is and it subsumes all the others in there, he is the creator and the sustainer of the world. He is free to create the world, and he could not have had he not chosen to. This is the definition of a theistic God, or orthodox theism. What is the definition of good and evil? Or what are the broad sort of definitions of good and evil? Evil generally is seen as everything that is negative and destructive. But we can further detail evil by saying, evil is any form of harm, whether physical or psychological, to sentient beings. 2, unjust treatment would constitute evil. 3, loss of opportunity would constitute evil, such as death in infancy. 4, anything that prevents from leading a virtuous life, such as poverty. 4, doing moral wrong would constitute evil. I'm talking about in main understanding. Finally, evil is also defined as privation of good or the non-existence of good. So blindness is evil due to the non-existence of sight. In contrast to evil, well, what is good? Some improvement of situation, just treatment, anything that advances the degree of fulfillment in life, doing what is morally right, optimal working of a person or of a thing. So you can see we have defined good by contrasting it against instances of evil. Now, evil is seen in these discussions at 2 levels. And these are both very, very important, and both of them are parts of the problem. Moral evil. Moral evil is defined as the misuse of free will with intention, or defects in character such as greed, dishonesty, so on and so forth. That's moral evil. And then we have natural evil. Natural evil are all those evils or events that lead to destruction which are beyond human choice and control, such as natural disasters, when they affect living beings. I'm qualifying it very precisely, or trying to. If there's an earthquake somewhere in the Sahara Desert where there is no individual or living being, we would not classify that as a natural evil. These are known as natural evils. Natural evil is only a natural evil and not a moral evil when human beings are not involved in any capacity. So if there is a tsunami and human beings are responsible for building faulty buildings that were taken by the tsunami, then that would constitute a moral evil. If there is an earthquake and the buildings were not to withstand the tremors that they ought to have withstood as a part of the negligence of human beings, then that too would constitute moral evil and not natural evil. However, the problem does not revolve around moral or natural evil in the main, as we will see. There is another classification of evil that is posing the greatest problem. This is known as horrendous evil. Horrendous evil. Sometimes known as gratuitous evil or pointless evil, whether it is moral or natural. We will give examples of both moral and natural horrendous forms of evil. One is a forest fire in which a deer gets trapped beneath a branch of a tree that falls upon it. It's trapped beneath that branch, half burnt, dies an agonizing death after a week. What possible purpose did that suffering or evil serve? Could that animal not have been relieved in an instance through an immediate death? Two, this is a real case that they quote. In America in the late 80s or the early 90s, that there was a woman who had a boyfriend who was the father of her child who was 6-month-old baby. But she had another daughter from another spouse. Now she, her boyfriend, and a friend on New Year's Eve or Christmas Day were drinking at a bar near their house. The boyfriend had consumed a lot of liquor and had become unruly. As a result, he was thrown out of the pub. He went back to his girlfriend's residence. The girlfriend with her male friend were still at the bar. When he went home, the woman's brother was there, with whom he had a fight. There was a scuffle and a fight. He got punched and knocked unconscious, and the brother left. The woman came back with her male friend, and out of jealousy, her boyfriend fought with her. Her friend struck him again, and he lost consciousness, and he was left on the floor. The friend went away. The girlfriend looked at his state and went to bed. Now, the young daughter, who was 5 years old, she came downstairs. And later on, they found that she had been beaten up, her limbs were broken, raped, and strangled to death. Now here is the problem. This is a moral evil. And that child had played no role inside that. And she suffered as a result. This is known as, or this is the case of horrendous evil, and beyond that, pointless evil, gratuitous evil in which there is no good explanation. With all of this in mind, now we look at the logical and what we call the inductive problems and explain them away. At the logical level, it's a very simple case that if the theistic God is like the theists explain, then there should be no evil. We ask, well, why shouldn't there be evil? The problem states that the God is free of all defects. It is not that He is not present. It is not that He is not capable. It is not that He does not know. When you say the God is perfectly good, caring, kind, loving, knows all and can do all and is present at all times, then evil should not exist. Basically, it is formulated in the following way. God exists. God is omnipotent, omniscient, and perfectly good. 2. 3. Perfectly good God would want to prevent evils. 4. Omniscient God knows evil before it comes into existence. 5. An omnipotent God can prevent evils from coming into existence. 6. Being who is aware and able would prevent evil. 7. If there is an omnipotent, omniscient, perfectly good God, no evil would exist. 8. Evil does exist. Conclusion is that there is no omnipotent, omniscient, perfectly good God. Either say He does not exist altogether, or say one of those attributes does not exist. Does that make sense? Yes? Now, in the logical problem, what they are trying to say is that these two notions are incompatible. They are inconsistent. On the one hand, you have an orthodox theist God who cannot be described but in this way. On the other hand, you have evil. So He is all capable, all loving, all good, all this, all that, all that. He is all of these things. Then we add further to it. Well, if He is all-knowing, then He knows instances of evil before they arise. If He is all-capable, then He can prevent instances of evil before they occur. The fact is, evil occurs. Not only that, you're saying He's all-loving and He is all-caring. What we are trying to say here, this argument is stating, is that these two things don't stack up. We can't make sense of it. The response here only needs to be to an extent that it can bring about consistency between the two. The response has to be plausible. It may not be a thing that is factual. It can be a response that explains it away. It may not, I said the response means to diffuse the tension. It may not even be plausible, but it can diffuse the tension. We can say because of this reason, there is consistency between these two notions. Existence of a perfectly good God and existence of evil are compatible with each other due to X, Y, and Z. Now that reason may not be something that is factual, may not even be something that is highly likely or possible. Nonetheless, it is a response, and it's a valid response to diffuse the logical argument. This is known as a defense. Now, Plantinga's defense to this was that all of this is true about God. Despite that, evil does exist, and the only reason they are compatible is because God allows evil to exist for the sake of free will and the attainment of greater good. There you go. So the whole of the argument has been dissolved. The argument was that these two are inconsistent. A defense was offered to bring in consistency between the two. Yes? It's as simple as that. But here, the defense has been offered in terms of moral evil, not natural evil. Fine, God has allowed human beings to misuse freedom in order to attain a greater good that awaits. That accounts for moral evil. What about earthquakes, famines, plagues, tsunamis, so on and so forth? The defense can be ridiculous, but so long as it brings in consistency, it's fine. So, a person might just say, well, natural evils are caused by the demon who is using his own free will or fallen angels. We'll say, well, this is totally absurd. We'll say, well, nonetheless, it's a defense. So the logical problem is diffused very, very easily. The logical problem was very ambitious because the atheists, by it, are seeking to prove the non-existence of God by any evil. Whatever evil can be used in this formulation of the problem. And the aim is to deny the existence of God altogether, or to deny a theistic God. It was this point that caused thinkers to resort to another level of argument against God. This is known as the experiential problem, or the inductive problem. By inductive, it means that we are experiencing it and seeing it. But to make matters worse, they are not quoting any type of evil. They are quoting an evil that is horrendous, an extreme type of evil. And together with that, the assertion is that it is pointless evil. So you can imagine how acute the problem is made. Now, their aim is not to deny the existence of God, but by citing experienced problems to undermine the possibility of the existence of a theistic God. So they're not as ambitious as the former, but they make the problem a pressing problem within the minds of the theists.